They say that nothing is ever truly lost. Sometimes it simply waits buried, frozen, or forgotten until the world stumbles upon it again. Across our planet, ships have been discovered in places where no ship should ever be. Deep beneath farmland, locked in polar ice, stranded in deserts, drifting across oceans, without a single soul on board. And every time one of these vessels is found, it forces us to ask the same questions. How did this get here? And what really happened to its crew? Imagine you're a sponge diver in the year 1900, off the coast of the Greek island Antiki. You descend into the blue, expecting to find sponges, but instead, you find the remnants of a shipwreck from 2,000 years ago. As you explore the decaying vessel, you come across a strange, corroded bronze device. It's covered in gears and inscriptions. You've just found the Antikythera mechanism, a discovery that would stun the world. This ancient device wasn't just a simple tool. It was an incredibly complex analog computer. It could predict solar and lunar eclipses, track the movements of the planets, and even mark the dates of the Olympic Games. This single artifact completely rewrote our understanding of ancient technology. It proved that 2,000 years ago, engineers had a level of sophistication we thought was impossible for their time. It makes you wonder, what other secrets does the deep sea hold? If you love mysteries like this, make sure to subscribe for more explorations into the unknown. Now, let's fast forward over a century later to a different kind of a beast, the frozen, crushing silence of Antarctica. Here, another ship waited. In 1915, the vessel Endurance, commanded by the legendary explorer Ernesta Shekkltona, became trapped in the thick pack ice of the Weddell Sea. 4 months, the ice squeezed the ship, groaning and splintering its wooden hull until finally, it was crushed and sank beneath the frozen surface. Shackleton and his men made an unbelievable escape, but the Endurance was lost to the depths. Then, in 2022, a search expedition finally located it. Nearly 10,000 feet underwater, there it was, sitting upright on the seabed. The wooden hull, with the name Endurance still clearly visible on the stern, was almost perfectly preserved. Why? The extreme cold and the absence of wood-eating organisms in the deep Antarctic had essentially frozen time itself, protecting the ship from decay. It was a ghost from a heroic age, returned to the world of the living. But not all lost ships are found underwater. Sometimes, the land itself becomes the ocean. In Serbia, at a massive open-pit coal mine, workers were digging through layers of earth when they hit something hard. It wasn't rock. They had uncovered the remains of 3 ancient ships, buried far from any modern river. One of them was a 1,300-year-old Roman military vessel, a type of ship used to patrol the borders of the empire along the Danube River. Over centuries, the river had shifted its course, leaving these ships stranded. Slowly, silently, the landscape changed around them, and they were swallowed by the earth, becoming geological artifacts instead of naval ones. They were ships that hadn't sunk into water, but into time. Perhaps the most baffling discovery of all, however, happened far from any ocean in the heartland of America. Imagine digging in a quiet cornfield near Kansas City, miles from the nearest major river, and finding a full-sized 19th century steamboat. That's exactly what happened when a team of amateur explorers unearthed the Arabia. In 1856, the steamboat was chugging up the Missouri River, loaded with 200 tons of cargo for frontier towns. It hit a submerged tree snag and sank in minutes. But here's the twist. The notoriously wild Missouri River soon changed its course, as it often did. Over the next century and a half, the old river channel filled with silt and soil, burying the Arabia 45 feet underground. When it was excavated in 1988, its cargo holds were a perfectly preserved time capsule. There were crates of fine china, bottles of champagne and pickles still edible, tools, clothing, and children's toys. It was a snapshot of everyday life from 1856, sealed away from the world beneath a farmer's field. While some ships were buried, others simply refused to sink. In 1931, the fur trading vessel SS Himo became trapped in Arctic ice. Its crew, fearing the ship would be crushed, abandoned it and sought shelter on land. But the Bachemo didn't sink. It broke free from the ice on its own and began a new life as the Arctic's most famous ghost ship. For the next 38 years, It was spotted drifting aimlessly across the unforgiving polar seas. Inuit hunters saw it, sailors reported it, but it was always empty. A silent wanderer in the white wilderness. Every attempt to board or salvage it failed. The last confirmed sighting was in 1969. After that, it vanished forever. Did it finally sink, or is it still out there, locked in an undiscovered ice floe? Its final fate remains one of the Arctic's greatest unsolved mysteries. These stories aren't just legends from a bygone era. In 2019, the ghost ship Alta washed ashore on the coast of Ireland during a storm. It turned out the ship had been drifting alone across the vast Atlantic for over a year. Its crew had been rescued by the US Coast Guard after it lost power off the coast of Bermuda. The ship was then simply abandoned to the ocean. Guided only by currents and chance, it sailed on its own silent journey, crossing one of the world's busiest oceans, completely undetected. What did it witness on that long, lonely boat? Hit the like button if you find these real-life ghost stories as fascinating as I do. Of course, history is also filled with stories that are tragically real, yet somehow forgotten. In 1865, just as the American Civil War was ending, the steamboat Sultana exploded on the Mississippi River. It was dangerously overcrowded with Union soldiers heading home. Over 1,000 people died, making it the deadliest maritime disaster in US history. Yet, you've probably heard more about the Titanic. Why? Because the Sultana disaster was completely overshadowed by the news of President Abraham Lincoln's assassination, which had happened just weeks earlier. The nation's grief was focused elsewhere, and one of its greatest tragedies was relegated to a footnote. Not every disaster becomes a legend. And then, there are the ships that vanish with no explanation at all, leaving behind a perfect mystery. You know the name? The Mary Celeste, found drifting in the Atlantic in 1872. It was in perfect sailing condition. The sails were set, the cargo was untouched, and there were ample supplies of food and water. The crew's personal belongings were still in their quarters. But the crew themselves, gone. There was no sign of a struggle, no damage from a storm. The ship's lifeboat was missing, which suggests the crew abandoned ship. But why would they abandon a perfectly seaworthy vessel for a small boat in the middle of the ocean? Theories range from pirates to sea monsters to mutiny, but no evidence has ever supported any of them. The answer was never found, leaving the Mary Celeste as the ultimate symbol of mysteries at sea. Across centuries and across the globe, one pattern repeats. Oceans shift their shores. Rivers carve new paths. Ice advances and retreats. And sometimes, human judgment simply fails. Ships are lost not to monsters or curses but to the immense and indifferent powers of nature, time, and chance. And every so often, when the land dries up, the ice melts, or the soil is dug away, they return. They are silent witnesses from another time, waiting to be found in places they were never meant to be. Thanks for watching.